Elected members, staff, members of the gallery, welcome to the council meeting for Tuesday the 28th of March. In doing so, I'd like to acknowledge the land we meet on today are the traditional lands of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to the living Kaurna people today. Also read you the council pledge. We seek wisdom and understanding as we face the duties of our united task, praying for the peace and prosperity of our city. Thank you very much. You may be seated. Do I have any declarations by members tonight about any conflicts of interest with any items on the agenda? Councillor Bowman?
I've got an interest but not a conflict. I'm a member of the Prospect Local History Group, and I also facilitated a community event at the Prospect Town Hall, the Creative Community by petitioners.
Thank you. CEO?
So interest but not a conflict.
Yeah, as per my advice, as per my thinking, the advice confirms, you've only got a conflict of interest if you're on the executive, you will not understand its history group, and running another event gives you an interest, but not a conflict of interest as it's described in the.
But that's why I say I've got interest.
Really interested. All that. Are there any other members who'd like to declare a conflict of interest? No, move on. On leave we have nil, and apologies, we have nil. Move to confirmation of the minutes. I noticed that we have been advised that there is expected to be a change. Councillor Harris, you notified us at one item 15.1, sorry, that you don't believe that was unanimous, that should just be changed to carried, not carried unanimously.
Yes. Sorry, I should stand up.
Not to say yes, to say technically yes, to say yes, but I'm just going to let you go.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Sake of correctness. So I'm happy to take it as the staff have amended that response to the suggestion from Councillor Harris. If somebody wishes to move that way, but you can move it, Councillor Harris, if you're okay with it. Wish to speak to any further?
Yes, just very briefly, the reason I do pull it out, or have pulled it out, same as the one before carried, is because I'm opposed to the sale of the tram barn as part of that setup. But for the sake of council moving ahead, I might not vote against it again, simply because people now know my view, and it's not necessary to hold council back by one person arguing against the minutes each time. So that is my reason I did not support.
Thank you. I understand that it was because that was embedded in that whole report about the whole thing. Come in, man. Just grab a seat. Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Group, Deputy Mayor Group, wish to speak? No. Any further debate? All those in favour? Carry. Unanimously.
I reply to that.
Mayor's report on pages 1 and 2. Apologies, a couple of items to change or delete. We'll try and get this as accurate as we can, but obviously it comes out a few days early. I was unable to get to the official launch of the 2017 Milruz Middle Eastern New Year celebration, so that one needs to come out. And also we've had a cancellation from, on page 2, the meeting with Craig Edwards and the North Adelaide Football Club and the CEO, and they are being they've cancelled, or anyway, it's been rescheduled. Okay, so those two items need to come out. Does anybody wish to move the balance of the report as it is? Councillor Leeds wish to speak to it. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Evans wish to speak to it. Any further debate? All those in favour? Yes. Carried unanimously. Right. Verbal reports from council representatives on local government or community organisations. Do we have Any such verbal reports? Councillor Evans.
Just a really brief one to update Council of Eastern Health Authority's annual business planning process, which has kicked off in earnest for the 17-18 year. No big changes are anticipated to come out as a result of that. The Board of the Eastern Health Authority met about a fortnight ago to discuss it, and no doubt we'll be receiving some correspondence in due course.
Thank you. Any further verbal reports? No, in the case, we'll move on to the next item, which is petitions. We have two tonight. Call forward the first petitioner on behalf of the Prospect Local History Group, going to Main North Road Tram Barn. David Kunis was going to be here, but is unable to be here tonight, so I invite forward Neil Rossiter to come forward. And if you could tell us your name and address for the purposes of the minutes.
Neil Rossiter, 66 Alice Street, Sefton Park.
Thank you. And you have 5 minutes, but if you could please stand and address us.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight on behalf of the Prospect Local History Group on the future of the tram barn. The History Group is greatly concerned that if the tram barn is sold, we lose control of what will happen to it. There is a genuine concern in our group that we will lose yet another one of our rare old buildings that could be demolished and lost forever. I looked at the strategic plan for the Prospect Council on the website the other day, and it was drawn to Strategy 2.1, respect the past, create our future. And the outcome was 2.1.1, in partnership with the community, a city recognised for its diversity, its range of local attractions, its local history, character, heritage and stories. Personally, I think that's really good. But I sincerely hope that that statement is not just merely words. For me, for any organisation or for any individual, that if they hold up a banner that states their values and aspirations, they should believe in them. And if we don't, maybe we should take that banner down. These arguments that have gone on before about the preservation of old buildings are not new. I am minded by the British social activist William Morris, who was one of the founders of the Society for the Protection of Ancient Buildings in the UK, who said in 1877 at one of the Society's meetings, and I quote, "It has been most truly said at our meetings that these old buildings do not belong to us only, that they have belonged to our forefathers and they will belong to our descendants unless we play them false. They are not in any sense our property to do as we like with. We are only trustees for those that come after us." And I think that was written 4 years before the tram barn was actually built, but I could stand corrected on that. So this is in a nutshell how our group feels about history and heritage of Prospect. It isn't ours, we are merely custodians. We hope that future generations will come to see, use and appreciate the tram barn and not have this denied to them. On a personal note, slightly different matter but related, I would like to thank the Council in its support of our group with its endeavours to save the air raid shelter on Wilcox Avenue. The installation of the pump will save the building from further destruction, and the effort and resources put in to beautify and enhance the outside of the shelter is greatly appreciated. History can be saved. Once again, thank you for listening to me today.
Thank you very much. Just hold there, Mr. Rossiter. Do any of the elected members have a question for Mr. Rossiter? Councillor Standard.
I have a question. What would you like to do with it?
Well,
Rossiter,
sorry, I've got to stand up, sorry. I could see it as something that might be used for the art community, or something that can be like a museum that was discussed at our history group meetings. But these are sort of things that we would like to be involved in, these sorts of things. But our biggest fear is that if we lost it, this would all be semantics. So the first thing that we would like to do is to know that it's going to stay and that we can do something with it. It's like the air raid shelter. We've saved it. We might be able to do something with it later on. Cross that bridge when we get to it.
Thank you. Councillor Barnett.
Yes, Mr. Ruster.
Neil?
Do you, in the local history group, a Prospect Local History Group, feel that there should be community consultation about the future of the tram barn and its possible uses?
Yes, I think so. I think one of the fears of the feedback I get, and look, I accept that I live at 66 Ella Street. I'm 3 streets away from the Prospect Council, but my wife and I do most of our stuff in Prospect. We love the place. The idea of community consultation is valid. I'd like to be involved in whatever the direction that the tram barn can take, and I think there's lots of people in our group would like to do that as well. So,
any further questions? Councillor Lee.
Mr. Roster,
Sandhouse.
sorry. So one of your comments was about retaining the tram barn. I think you alluded to the fact that it might be demolished.
yes.
Is that your major concern?
Yes, because once it's gone, it's the end of discussion.
Are you aware of its protection under the State Heritage Act?
Well, it's interesting that you mention that, because I noticed today in the local paper that one of the schools is trying to change its state heritage restrictions on what they can do with their school. So just because I think, and I think that if it's state heritage protected, that might not actually be enough.
Are you aware of what we do with it now?
Well, it's sitting there, and it's actually probably one of the best examples of a tram barn left in Adelaide.
Are you aware that we park vehicles in it? That's our current use of it?
Shame.
Yes, well, that means it's still being used, but you're obviously going to sell the rest of the depot, and that might be going with it. And then what happens? So that's the problem.
Anything further, Councillor Lee, on a different topic, or not different topic?
It's about the tram barn.
Yeah, I understand that. And we're always polite to our petitions.
Oh, I didn't think I just was wondering, was he aware of everything about it? Didn't mean to be rude.
Do you have any further questions for the petitioner? Councillor Barnett.
Yes, as a follow-up to the last question from the councillor, do you think, and the Prospect Local History Group has a good track record in preserving its local and state heritage buildings?
That is not for me to say. That would be just an opinion, and I could be just saying my opinion, and there'll be a whole range of different opinions. In a sense, I probably think that I could say no, but I could be wrong. So, but if we aim to save this tram barn, well, that's a tick, I think, in the sense of holding up your strategic plan and say we actually follow it.
Any further questions? Councillor Lowen.
Have you, so we're aware of the state heritage listing at the tram barn, have you heard or been told that Prospect Council would endeavour to change the status of it in order to remove that barrier?
I haven't heard anything. What I've heard is that the whole site might be sold, and what might happen to it is anyone's guess. So, well, once it's sold, who do you sell it to? And if I was buying it, I might want to change my use for it, the same as the school down the road. So,
further questions from Mr. Rossiter? That being the case, thank you very much for your petition and your answers. So, Mr. Rossop,
Thank you.
Rejoin Gary. Thank you. And we have 2 petitions tonight, as I said. The next one is listed as being from the Royal South Australian Society of Arts, say the Tram Barn. The head petitioner is Jack Condis. If you come forward. And just for the purposes of the minutes, if you could clarify your name and address.
My name is Jack Condis. I'm from 46 Johns Road, Prospect.
Thank you. And your 5 minutes starts, but just before, because you might need to read 5 minutes, we had a quick chat about whether this petition is listed correctly as from the Royal South Australian Society of Arts or whether it is from you as a community member.
I'm presenting it on behalf of the community, not the Royal South Australian Society of Arts. I think there's been a confusion because I'm a vice president and maybe my card got attached somehow to the presentation. So I hope it's recorded that I'm presenting it on behalf of the community of Prospect.
Okay, so we'll get that changed if we can, Minute Secretary, and the agenda item will change as well. So the Royal South Australian Society of the Arts name doesn't appear because I gather they've not endorsed it.
There will be comment that I make about the Royal during my presentation.
That's different. That's different. Okay, your 5 minutes starts now.
Thank you, councillors, for allowing me the opportunity to present. I've been here now. This is my second time. You'll probably be getting sick and tired of seeing Condis here, but I present the petition in terms of the community, and we circulated the poster that you may have seen and held a very successful meeting in the town hall recently. Save the Tram Barn, as you heard from my colleague in the previous presentation, is a very important issue to the community. The community do not wish to see it sold, and this has come from consultation with a broad range of community from the meeting we had and by the fact of people signing that petition stating their wishes. We have a lot of people who are saying they're unhappy because of the lack of consultation. And I want to turn it around because I think council can capitalise on the opportunity that allows them to do something quite positive. The Tram Barn is a great risk if it is sold. And there are state heritage rules, but there are things that can occur in state heritage rules which can change the profile of the Tram Barn should it be bought by a developer and should things occur. It's a great place. I've been inside it and I've taken other people with me to have a look at the project, to have a look at the site. The community, I know from my discussions and inside the petition, want it to be saved. I believe that council can take the initiative by forming a working party, a joint working party with the community to facilitate better communications with the community in enlisting and reinforcing the strong will of the community to save the Tram Barn. Here's an opportunity. There's a lot of criticism out there about the state of the art, the state of the Tram Barn. A lot of confusion too, because they believe it would be sold. That's the perception. And I think it's a wrong perception. You haven't said yet that you're going to sell it. But that's the perception out there. I think you ought to seize the opportunity to do something creative. Something creative that is in your strategic plan as mentioned, a creative hub of Prospect, a creative community that you foster and develop, a creative hub so close to town that I'm sure so close to the main road could be fostered and developed advantageously. Make this Tram Barn your community hub. Why not call it a process and procedure involving your community with a joint relationship with the council? The implications obviously are enormous. I don't know how much it's going to cost, but I do know the goodwill's there. I do know you can go after money. I've done that. And I, through the Royal Society, through other organisations, have serviced and assisted artists in a wide range of activities. I believe a museum, a history organisation, the arts can play a significant role. You've got a creative community here that wants to use the Tram Barn. If you don't save the Tram Barn, you as council will be seen and labelled as diminishing the value of your culture and your society. And that's been proven throughout the world. Where their buildings have been saved and there's cooperation, I can name umpteen dozen, because I've done the research of cooperation with councils that have taken the lead, have assisted their community in developing joint partnerships. You've done it here in Prospect. Why not do it with the Tram Barn? It costs money, yes, but we've got the ideas, we've got the will, the community's prepared to do it. The money will flow from the vision. I'm certain it will. Why haven't you, as a progressive community, a progressive council, been down doing something about it for the last 8 or 9 years. Okay, you park cars in there, you park trucks, but it's such a beautiful building. It's a heritage building. We should be proud of that fact and do something creatively with it. Finally, at the meeting on Wednesday evening that we held in the town hall, we had contact with other organisations. There were something like 14 different organisations represented. There were 35 people present. They ventured to say, we want this creative hub to occur. It would be a feather in the cap of this council, the Prospect Council with its creative community, to plan the project collaboratively. That's what I'm asking for. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I went around with a petition. And a lot of people agreed. It's a major aim to protect, preserve and develop this building for future generation use. A motion was passed at this meeting, and I'll read it to you. They asked for nothing to be decided until due diligence and committed consultation is made, so no irretrievable decision is made. Fairly harsh words, but I bring them to you from a community group that was very excited by what they saw, what they heard from so many different organisations and speakers on that night. So, Mr Mayor, I just present that deputation to you.
Thank you very much, Mr Connors. Do the members have any questions, Mr Connors? Councillor Love.
Thanks for your presentation, Jack. You mentioned quite early on that there's a perception that the site will be sold and there's a perception that the building may be demolished. Where do you think this perception has arisen from? Because I've been involved in all the conversations around the chamber and around our workshops since we've been talking about this over the last 12 or 18 months thereabouts, and I can't recall us talking about demolishing it. So where's the perception coming from?
I think it's from fear of the unknown, the fact that so many heritage sites have been in one way or other changed, developed, taken over by developers who have done other things. Whether they've kept the facade and other things inside is another matter. So I think that's the perception, because I suspect the community is saying you haven't, as a council, communicated as effectively as you should. And I know that's questionable, but that's what people are telling me. And that's why they signed this petition, because of the fear that they feel for the unknown. Whereas if you were to come out collaboratively with an organisation, a variety of organisations, and do something positive, that will allay that fear and put it straight for the community.
Thanks. Further questions from elected members? Councillor Stanley.
Another question, the same question as I had before. I mean, given the blue sky scenario, what would you love to do with the building?
Considering we're actually parking trucks in it, it's actually being used as intended originally. Quite ironic, really. But what would you do, given a blue sky scenario, whatever you wanted to do?
It was a vision painted by not only me, but lots of other people that spoke to me, a creative hub fitting the strategic plan of this council, a creative community where it could be used by a number of different organisations, and we have them out there, not only in Prospect, a fantastic tourist resort. Main Road, you could have people coming, and I've talked to those people from the Jam Factory, Fontenelle, you name them, 40 different organisations. The Royal Society today, with the President and the Director said, workshops, holding specific activities, getting people in. Writers' Week wanted to have people go out and do things. And I'm sure if that was a hub, it would have the label and council approval where you've devolved the authority and development of that site to a management group, just as you have in other sites and other arrangements with council. It would be fantastic for our city, which would bring tourists, it would bring economic benefit, it would bring all kinds of activity locally, which I think would be beneficial to our society.
Follow-up question, Councillor Stanley.
Given the site is a larger site rather than just a tram barn,
Do you see anything,
personally, once again, it's blue sky thinking.
Do you see anything that could be done with the rest of the site to, get your vision up and running?
Well, I'm not, I need to, that's where I can need to collaborate with councils like you that have other ideas, but I don't know, you need parking, you obviously need to sell some of the site to do what you want to do here, and it's already been approved. And I'm all for a gallery, all for the facilities that you obviously want to plan and develop, but I think it can be parcelled off, because I understand there are different titles on the site that could be engineered to make you some money, But I deem that effectively and efficiently you can make more money by tourism, by economic benefit of creative activity happening there from various parts. We're so close to Adelaide, we're so close to what's happening in the main road going north and south. So I don't have your answer, but I think laying the cards on the table, there's tremendous possibility and adventure for that site.
Deputy Mayor Bruce.
Thank you. Thanks, Jack, for being here again. You mentioned about council not doing anything for the last 8 or 9 years. We perhaps was 90 years ago. We've had 90 years to do this, so it's not just a recent.
Okay. Well,
I was just going to ask you, in terms of some of the ideas, have you had any thoughts about how we would fund it? Because that seems to be one of the biggest issues that everyone's talking about. How would we attract the funds to do what you were talking about, Mr. Rossiter was talking about?
I haven't the answers. I haven't all the answers, but I have the vision. And I know that if you've got a vision that is cooperatively worked through, the funds flow. Submissions, I've made submissions to state government, the Arts Council, I've made submissions to Bequest. We've enticed people to donate. I just had delivered 100 works of art, probably worth a lot of money. Okay, I can't sell them right now because they're part of a bequest. But there's people out there I'm sure we could tap in the community that say, here's some money to do this vision. We haven't tried that. I don't think we're good at entrepreneurship. It's getting better in Australia. But you see such fantastic entrepreneurial flavours that are happening in other states. And I think we can repeat that here. We just have to take what the Art Gallery does with the Ramsay Foundation, with other foundations. There are bequests that can be tapped. And I'm sure if there was a collaborative effort with council and its community, the perception out there would be enhanced. If you're fighting one another, you won't get anywhere. You need that collaboration and consultation with the cloud of the community. And there's projects out there which have been highlighted and run by council with the community behind them assisting. So I haven't got the answer of the dollar. The vision's there, but I think the dollar flows. It will cost you money. You've got to have toilets. You've got to have running water. You've got to have whatever's needed for disabled, whatever. But that site is beautiful. The inside of it needs some tender loving care. We've done it to the Prospect Community Garden. When you gave us that site, look at it now. It's developed after 5 years. It'll take a long time to develop it, but why not do it slowly, do it methodically with the assistance of charitable organisations and the goodwill of the community.
Thank you. Councillor Adams.
Jack, the vision you're painting is quite exciting, really. It's really good to hear. One of the things that I'm grappling with, I guess, as we come to the decision tonight is looking at the role that council's going to play in this. So we're hearing that there's going to be a group of the community that's going to get together. We're hearing that they need support. Largely it's going to be about other people driving the success of what's going to happen at the tram barn. So before we explore what those opportunities look like, why would we want to take one of the opportunities off the table, which is sale? Why is sale so intrinsically linked to the success of the tram barn?
I haven't got the answer to that. I don't know. I'm not a developer, but I dare say a developer would be interested in what they can do to make more money. You won't make money straight away, but you'll make lots of other things. Creative sensibility, creative aptitude, creative people that feel good about doing things, and the arts do all that. You've done it here in the town hall with all sorts of musicals. You've done it down, you've had eco markets, you've had lots of things. They could be transposed and fixed in other venues. I don't have the answer for the money, but I do have the answer for the vision, and I think that to go at it jointly is the answer with your community. The leadership, yes, there's leadership of the community, but there's leadership coming from the council as well in being able to give seed money to do things.
Just on, I guess, where we're at the moment, so we haven't yet really sought any expressions of interest or any detail around what's possible at the site. We can obviously express our desire for what we want to see there, sale or non-sale. So before we explore those opportunities, why would it be so critical to take an opportunity of sale off the table before we know what might come back to us?
I think the point I made earlier is about communication with your community. Right now, the sense I have out there is that you're not communicating well enough. I'm sorry to say it, Mr. Mayor, but people are saying to me, how was the decision made? Why wasn't I consulted? You get that going all the time, but I think here's an opportunity to seize the opportunity to improve your communication as a council, because you've done it so well in other projects. This is a major project. What you're going to do here is a major project. That's your next best project, because there's a lot of people on the other side of Main North Road are not all that happy with the decisions made here. But they are saying, let's keep that site, let's do something creatively with it.
All right. Thank you. Councillor Barnett.
Yes, I want to touch on, because a couple of other elected members here tonight have asked you about where the community, where did perhaps you get the idea about the sale of the tram barn, when in fact there was quite explicit in that last council meeting, Part E, that was about the sale of the tram barn. And tonight there's a recommendation, item 15.4, which says about the expression of interest, including the tram barn and all other buildings, including its sale. So how can you are these the sorts of things that you and the people you're in touch with the community that are worried about?
I believe so. They're worried that once, as my colleague said earlier, once the tram barn is there and gone, you'll never see it again. We had the jam factory on Paynham Road. It was a beautiful facility. It was transferred. They kept the facade, but inside it's all apartments. I haven't been able to go inside to see what they've done with the apartments. The fear by the community, it's only fear right now because of the unknown. A beautiful building that's been there, not much has been done with it. The potential that I've seen with the people I've spoken with is enormous. It's more fear than anything else. There's no fact that you've, council come out and said it's going to be sold, but the perception you need money to do what you're going to do here, how are you going to get it? Borrow it, sell off the depot. The tram barn is happening to be on the property of the depot. I think it's there's a different title, I suspect. Yeah, same title. Well, so I haven't answered the question, but I think it is perception and misunderstanding, whereas the suggestion I've made is by the collaborative method I've put forward, I think it'll overcome those fears.
Any further questions, Mr. Connors? That being the case, thank you, Mr. Connors. You petitioned your answers to your questions. If you could please resume your seat. Thank you. Deputations, we have nil motions on notice, nil questions with notice, nil questions without notice. Councillor Bowman and then Councillor Harris.
Okay. Yeah, I had a question regarding our current policy around issuing certificates of occupancy for new developments.
And your question was?
If the developer is not in full compliance with approval conditions of the development or has not remedied identified defects, how does council staff deal with the developer to ensure no breaches occur, including the premature occupation of the building?
Put that to the director.
Through the chair, and thanks for the question. Look, there's a couple of questions embedded in there. Quite simply, there's no policy on council issuing certificates of occupancy. It's governed by the Development Act and Development Regulations, which talks about that process. That being said, because it's a building code component of the assessment, it is dealt with generally by private certifiers, and I've checked recently with our department, we haven't issued a certificate of occupancy ourselves for at least 7 years. So they're generally done. Outside of that, there's another part of your question which is a little bit outside of certificate of occupancies, which relates to general compliance of any development plan conditions. Essentially, we will deal with those in a reactive sense upon complaint, and conditions of approval carry with the land, and they carry with the approval generally for a long period of time, whether it's landscaping or whatever. And upon receipt of a complaint, our staff will go out and start looking to enforce those conditions of approval. But premature occupancy sits outside of that as an issue, and that's more a planning system issue in terms of developers and land agents and all those not actually lining up the process.
Thank you. Apologies, Councillor Badak, but using an old historical name. Do you have a follow-up question at all for the director?
Yeah, just briefly, I know there's a meeting next Monday on changes to our development proposals to the development plan. I was just wondering if there is any opportunity to ask for better resourcing considering the amount of development that's going on in our city.
Through the chair, budgets relating to salaries sit within the ambit of elected members, and if it was the view that we were short and that we needed resources, by all means.
I'm indirectly asking the question if we're under-resourced for the amount of compliance work that needs to be done.
Director, it goes back to that issue. Do we have enough resources to deal with our compliance matters regarding planning and building issues?
Look, in a proactive sense, certainly not. In a reactive sense, just.
Thank you. Councillor Harris, did you have your hand up for a question?
Yeah, was that one answered? No, that's all right.
I thought so. I think it was a pretty direct answer, which we can choose to change, but that's the answers.
Yeah, I just thought you might have said how we possibly could do that. My question starts with an apology. Apologies to the director over there because I forgot about it today. January, I called for a further report on the storm damage from December and cost and various things. And I thought it might have been tonight. And I'm just asking through the chair when we will get a report, a further report.
Thank you, Director.
Through the mayor next month.
Anything further on that one?
No.
Any other questions about notes? No. Move on to the protocol. Not a lot of reports on tonight, but a lot of interest. Does anybody wish to withdraw item 13.1, the Audit Committee meeting minutes? If not, I'll withdraw it to highlight a couple of matters. Item 15.1, does anybody wish to withdraw the Terrific Prospect event evaluation? Please thorough report. No. Item 15.2, the project update on the Community Hub Library Innovation Centre. Does anybody wish to withdraw that item? Councillor Becker. Thank you. 15.3, response to the motion, financial implications of retaining the Trambarn site and council ownership, an answer to a specific question. Councillor Barnett. Item 15.4, calling for expressions of interest in council's deficit associated.
Oh, sorry, I'll wait till you finish. Just thought I'd save you this.
Associated land at 82 Johns Road and 218 Main Road Prospect. Councillor Harris, I'll take it going to item 16.1, the removal of footpath trading fees and footpath trading policy reviews. Anybody wish to withdraw that one? Councillor Becker. 19.1, response to Ombudsman SA, Section 270, right of review. Anybody wish to withdraw that? No. 2. Okay. So can I have someone move items 15.1 and 19.1?
So moved.
Thank you, Mayor. Group, do I have a seconder? Councillor Standen. There's no debate. All those in favour? Against, carried unanimously. Okay. Through item 13.1, just very briefly to speak to a couple of the outcomes of the Audit Committee, which I thought the Audit Committee would draw things to Council's attention. So I know you've all read it, but I wanted to draw it to your attention then again. So it's twice. In item of the minutes there in the recommendation itself on page 7, that the Audit Committee recommends Council consider the development of an information technology strategy around the link between the Information Technology Strategic Plan, Council's own strategic plan, Council's digital economy strategy, and its participation in the Intelligent Communities Framework. And it just became obvious at the Audit Committee that we have an IT strategy which deals with our corporate issues pretty well, but doesn't necessarily pull together all those strands into one document. So the Audit Committee said, you've got to somehow have it all in one place. So just so you're aware that that was picked up and has been requested. They'll come to us at some point. And item 2.1, the Audit Committee recommends to Council that the third budget review include a probability assessment concerning completion of operating and capital projects. So just briefly, we have the budget reviews we're required to have. We're required to have 3. I think we have 4, don't we, Director? Essentially, we exceed the legislative requirement. But come towards the end of the year, there's a risk of things not being done or carryovers, which tend to play around with our budget. So what the Audit Committee has recommended is that there be a flushing out projects that are unlikely to be finished by the end of the year, and that comes to us in the budget review prior to the end of the financial year. So there'll be some discussions behind the curtains, I suspect, about what's likely to get up and what's not likely to get up for whatever the good reasons are. And the third budget review is therefore more accurate. So, so just so you're aware, the Audit Committee recommended that's the process. That's all I wanted to highlight. Your attention. I'm happy to take a move of the report as it is, if there is one. Councillor Evans is the committee member. Happy to move. Wish to speak any further?
That was a good summary.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Mark Hood, do you wish to speak to it? Great speeches. Any further debate? All those in favour? Against? It's carried. Unanimously. Next item was already voted for. The next item after that, 15.2, the project update, the Community Hub Library and Innovation Centre, recommendation on page 39. Councillor Backer, just a brief reading.
Just a couple of points of clarification on the attachment 6.
So these are questions?
Questions just into the wording. It was a typo and something else.
I'm happy to take up brief questions if that's all it is, and then I'll ask you if you wish to move it if you're happy with those answers.
Okay, so on page 50, it's probably about the 6th line down. Just as a matter of consistency, it was regarding an action looking at land division options for Main North Road, and it does mention the word sale, so just foreshadowing other motions. I'm just wondering if options is a better...
So one item says...
6, page...
yes,
page
one item
50.
says land division options for Main North Road sites. Is that the item
and
number?
it says work up a proposal for the potential sale of the Main North Road site, including reference to master planning. So again, just foreshadowing, and it also talks about seek specific comments from Flight Path on potential risk of tram barn demolition. So it wasn't clear to me, and I just wanted to make it clear maybe to the gallery.
I'm sorry, you've just asked questions at this stage. So your question is whether the words potential sale is accurate.
Yes.
I think the staff are only following the motion that Council's passed, which says sale, and they've actually added the word potential to the front of it, which is non-binding, but Director, do you wish to respond to the suggested changing the wording at all?
Not really. Essentially, these are just words capturing the sentiment of the PEG meeting, and they've followed, as you've stated, the language used in the January Council report. It's going to follow up discussion around that PEG table, which has talked about how to move that resolution forward.
Yeah, so from the chair, I don't see any issue with the language because it doesn't lock in a sale.
No, that's fine.
Move your second question, sorry.
The second one was just in, again, and it refers to the Flight Path report, which I think is actually in this agenda, and it talks about the potential risk of tram barn demolition. And again, just to the community, reading words like that might need clarification.
I'm just at loss on where are you?
Page 50.
Oh, same item. Right, okay. Yeah. Sorry, I'm from the chair again. My recollection is that question was specifically asked by elected members. We've engaged a specialist to tell us whether that is possible at all. So the question came from the floor, not from the staff.
No, it wasn't clear in reading these notes what it meant.
Okay. Thank you. I think that clarifies it. There are just notes of what questions people are answering. It's the answers that we've got to pay a lot of attention to, and more attention to our resolutions. Speaking of which, did you wish to move this in its current form?
I'm happy to move it.
Okay. Thank you. Do you wish to speak to it any further? Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor Group, you should speak to it all.
Just very briefly to say that I think it's great that this report has come into Council because it does show the transparency that we're approaching this matter with. I'd certainly encourage not just the elected members but the community to look at this because it does give a bit of a sense of the conversations that we have at the PEG meetings, which are fortnightly. Just in terms of that question from Councillor Backer around the Flight Path, that was really about ensuring that the tram barn can't be demolished rather than it kind of reads off.
Yeah, I just wanted someone to clarify that.
And that, because I remember that discussion quite clearly. So it's really about saying how can we make sure that doesn't happen as opposed to having that sure it does. Just
Yes.
but no, it's certainly a good report. I think it's good it's coming to this forum every month.
Thank you. Any further debate? Councillor Harris.
Yes, just to take the opportunity, as I had done before, to oppose it because of the various things that comes about the sale of the other. I'm actually going to vote with it tonight so it can continue on with everyone's interest, but still in my heart I'm still opposed to the sale basically of any land council, but particularly the tram park.
I think you made that very clear, Councillor. Thank you. Any further debate? No, just from the Chair, just want to reinforce Councillor Group's point for those in the gallery. If you haven't found the website, just go onto our homepage and look for, I think it's the first item in items of interest, the Community Hub Library Innovation Centre. Open it up and everything is in there. I've not been involved in a project with so much transparency before. Even the internal meetings of the executive team working on the project, those meetings are what's in there, and that was the item that Councillor De Backer was just referring to. So if you want to see where the thinking is at, you can drill right into it. So CEO, how soon do those notes or anything go up? How quickly do they expect to see? Director?
Through the Chair, weekly updates are happening on that website at the moment.
Weekly. So pretty current. If it's not there, please ask one of us or call the staff. Any further debate on that item? That concludes debate. Sorry, it doesn't conclude debate. Councillor De Backer, do you wish to sum up? Okay. All those in favour? Against, it is carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, the next item is item 15.3, response to motion, financial implications of obtaining the tram barn site council ownership. The recommendations on page 53. Councillor Barnett, just a brief reason why you withdrew it.
Yes, I would just like to actually lock in that a further report comes to council meeting about the implications that have been raised in the report about long-term financial modelling and about budget allocation with the tram barn and information on deferral of other projects and some of those items.
Thank you. That's a very broad-ranging request. Did you have an amendment that you're proposing?
Yes.
Okay, right. So that, in other words, you
or an additional part 2.
You don't move what's here. Because you can't amend it if you move it.
No, that's right, yes.
Okay.
No.
So does somebody else wish to move it in its current form? Councillor, sorry, Deputy Mayor Group, wish to speak to it?
Yes, I will. I will move it. I moved the initial motion back in January. I think the report really answers the question that we want to know: how much is the tram barn worth in a monetary value? And the answer is $1.5 million. That gives us an issue that we now need to look at and deal with, and that's I guess the intent of the motion back in January. I'm interested to hear what the amendment might be, and we'll wait to hear from Councillor Barnett.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Evans, wish to speak to it?
Just briefly to echo, I guess, the comments of Deputy Mayor Groot. So it was a good report, interesting report, and it helps inform subsequent items on the agenda tonight.
Thank you. Councillor Barnett, do you have a copy of that in front of you?
Yes, I do.
So over to you, Councillor Barnett.
Yes, just given previous discussion with you overseas, I was in two minds about whether this, to me, is important enough to warrant an additional part 2, anyway, well, I'll leave that. So I just have, it was quite clear from reading the report that came with that. I believe there's an urgent need to revisit Council's financial model process, as the long-term financial model does not include any budget allocation to convert the tram barn for use other than the storage function it currently provides. Council and community need to be aware of all of these implications. I believe we also need a handle on the per square metre cost, as it could be that the CLIC project costs per square metre could be reduced, therefore the total project cost reduced. If other activities could possibly go to the tram barn site, And throughout all of Council's financial modelling process, I believe there's been an assumption that's been maintained that the new click construction would be considered a renewal project. And in the report it says in reality the measurement of the percentage of renewal compared to upgrade will need to be reassessed following the design stage for the new building. So I think it's very important that we have a report that looks at with fresh eyes our long-term financial model, and these were items that are actually raised by the author of the report. So I would like to formalise that more in part 2, so that we've now got the report comes to council meeting with long-term financial plan implications, and I think the staff have a copy of that, of my concerns that I've just spoken about, so that we do get a report that does come, because they are raised by the staff, and I think I don't know if it was going to be intended for a further report to come, but I'd just like to get on the table and that we make sure that that report does come to us.
Thank you. So you haven't read out the amendment, but I can read it out for you. And the reason I want to do that is...
It was going to be up there, sorry.
Anyway, the dilemma I've got as the chair in terms of processing this stuff is that this report is an answer to a very, very specific question, and the CEO is advising me that that question has been answered in the report. There are other matters which you're seeking to raise, which I think would sit perfectly in general business, and quite happy to accept it as a foreshadowed motion, but not tying it so specifically to this particular outcome, or sorry, to this particular motion, because this is about answering the question. But I will read out for the benefit of the members what you're proposing to amend, because you would have read it out yourself if you had it in front of you, I'd say, because have you got a copy there?
I have it, yes.
Oh, yeah, all right.
All right then, so my additional part 2 is that a report comes to a council meeting with long-term financial modelling that includes any budget allocation upgrades to convert the tram barn for use other than the storage function it currently provides, because at the moment we don't have that. Any information on that. We don't have any decision about that. We have not had any discussion about it. The other part B, information on a deferral of other projects that would need to be undertaken to fund these upgrades if they are undertaken by council. Again, I think this may have been spoken about or alluded to in workshops, but we don't know what are the implications of and what projects could be deferred. So I think we need to have that information. And part C, the assessment of measurement of the percentage of renewal compared to upgrade following the design stage of the new click building. Again, this is important. It has implications for our long-term financial modelling. I think we need to have the information on that as well. So that's why I've been calling this part 2 to be added.
Thank you. They're all excellent questions. I have no problem with the questions. I'm going to deem it as 2 separate issues and therefore not an amendment. In fact, it's not necessarily contrary, but the original question said, what would be the impact on the financial plan if we lost the revenue? The questions start to ask about it if we lost the revenue and we spent money on the facility. So it actually would exacerbate the answer that we've got, which is why I think we should separate them out and treat it as general business. I'm perfectly happy to accept it under general business. I just don't think it's an amendment to this motion. That's what I do as a chair. I mean, it's just a procedural matter for those of Gary probably bored out of their wits listening to this, but that's how I'm seeing it as a chair. So just letting you know, and I'll take it as general business when we get to that point in time.
So a follow-up question. So do you, as the chair, presiding officer, have any issue with adding the amendment part 2? The report comes to council meeting with long-term financial plan modelling.
Sorry, you're asking?
That was in. That's what the whole item is concerned with.
I have your written amendment in front of me, and I have no problem with asking for long-term financial modelling. But your question is modelling that includes spending more money on talking about other projects that might need to be deferred, and talking about how this project here might the difference between renewal and upgrade might impact on that decision. They're all very good questions, but they're not related to this item.
But what about if it just stops at, you take out that include off the end of it? That's my question to you, that as presiding officer, if you would be happy with part 2 being added, that a report comes to council meeting with long-term financial plan modelling.
I see, and still treat that as a separate matter.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm with you now. Long-term financial modelling is in the report on page 55, Councillor, so I'm not, what extra...
By way of explanation, I'm getting very frustrated with this because I want answers to these, and I don't know how else am I going to get the answers to these questions if I don't call for a report.
Oh, sorry, Councillor, I don't mean you to be frustrated. I'm recommending you call for a report in general business, which is a time to call for reports.
Well,
I don't understand the issue with that. This report includes long-term financial modelling, so I don't understand the point of part 2 unless you want it on other matters. So I'm saying ask for a general business, and the CEO and the team will do that.
All right, well, I'll try my chances then and withdraw that.
Thank you. Thank you, much appreciated. And we'll get that typed up, ready to talk about in general business as in totality. Thank you. Any further debate on this item? On 15.3? No, that being the case, Councillor Deputy Mayor Groot, wish to sum up? With debate, all those in favour? Yes, is carried unanimously. Next item was item 15.4, the calling for expressions of interest in Council's depot and associated land at 82 Johns Road and 218 Main North Road Prospect. Councillor Harris, just a brief reason why you withdrew it.
Yes, because I'm opposed to the motion on the screen, and I've got words that I'm going to ask if we have a mover and seconder to include or put it up as an amendment.
Okay, thank you. So you don't wish to move it as it is. Do I have a mover as it is to get it on the floor? Councillor Evans, wish to speak to it?
I do. And just by starting, I want to start by what this is doing, because I think there is a bit of confusion, and I just want to be absolutely clear about what I'm moving and the reasons for moving it. I'm not moving to sell the tram barn, certainly not moving to demolish it. And I can say that in another language, but I can't make that point more clear. This isn't a motion to either sell or demolish the tram barn in any way whatsoever. The reality is we haven't started our due diligence on what can happen with this site, and that's a really important point. And until we start our due diligence, until we know what's out there, and until we know the various opportunities that exist for the site in its totality, why would we take our options off the table? That doesn't make any sense. We're not compelled to sell. We're certainly not being asked to demolish in any way whatsoever, but there is the question around what is the future of this site as a whole. And if we start to limit our options now, we're not doing our due diligence and we're not doing our community justice through exploring all the options. Now that might come back to us in a way, and we may get options that come back to us that are just completely inconsistent with what we would deem appropriate for the site, and then we don't have to sell. We don't have to do anything. But why would we limit our options at this very early point? We know what the shortfall is. It's 1.3 to 1.5 million. That's what the motion before talked about. But that's not what I'm going to talk about for the rest of this motion, because for me it's not about the money in the tram barn. It's about what can happen with that site. And I'm hearing that very clearly, loud and clear. I was talking to a young girl who was in her early 20s, who was on Percy Street this morning about the tram barn, and didn't even really know where it was and what it was all about. And that's not good. I think that we've got a potential asset in our community that's genuinely being underutilised and genuinely being misunderstood. But when we think about who's best to do that, who's best to activate that site, we need to look at what's happening in our community more broadly. And, you know, we may choose to love it, we may choose to hate it. But you look at Uber, for instance. Anyone can be involved in the ride-sharing economy now. They don't need to necessarily be regulated by government. Airbnb is the same thing. Netflix, you don't own a single movie, but you're given access to thousands of hours of content on tap whenever you want it. Spotify is the same, Apple Music, the list goes on and on. Our community is moving to a mode of access access, not ownership, and that's across the board. And for us to truly make this site what it is and the opportunities that can be entailed in it, and indeed what the deputies have talked about tonight, we need to think about partnerships and we need to think about the way in which that can occur. If we try and do it all ourselves as council, it's not going to be as successful as what it could be if we had partnerships with others. Now that partnership may look like us owning the site, but it may not. And why would we take our options off the table before we even raise the question? Understanding that there's still a very long way to go before sale is even contemplated. The site's heritage listed, and that commands respect. And that's something we absolutely need to be mature about and understand. And when we're working with what options are available on the site, we absolutely need to respect that. It's a site that isn't going to be demolished, and it's a site that, because of its heritage, has huge opportunity as well. I mentioned it last week. I was in Sydney last week and I went to Australian Technology Park, and it's a fantastic place. If you haven't had an opportunity to go, some of us I know have. Natives there until 1989. It closed and it was Paddy's Market for a few years. Sydney's universities got together with the developer then, and I use those terms quite loosely, because we've got universities and we've got developers and we've got a move from the government that wanted to see something happen on the site. Developers are great at realising visions. Learning institutions in this case was great at doing what they do best, which is obviously inspire innovation and knowledge into a community. And that's now realised in a very successful building, Australian Technology Park, that employs over 5,500 people and has 100 startup firms in it. But not only does it have that, it's got a community volunteer program. It's got opportunities to engage, for the community to participate and to understand and to learn, to draw on those resources that have occurred there at Australian Technology Park. If the City of Sydney had the site and chose to do it themselves, would it be that successful? I don't know. We can form our own conclusions about that. But at this stage, I'm not prepared to come to a view on the sale of the tram barn until we've explored our options, understanding there's a raft of safeguards that are in place, and indeed a raft of steps that are in place before we do come to a view as to whether we sell, if we sell, and in what format we sell and for what purpose. They're all very fundamental questions, and we've got to understand them before we limit our options.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a second? Councillor Larwood, would you speak to it?
Just briefly, I echo Councillor Evans' sentiments and want to reiterate a point that we're partway through a process here. We're at the start of that process. We talk at times about whether council should take the lead on a project like this, but we also talk around the chamber about when council should get out of the way and let other organisations and groups of people who are better suited to lead this type of project take charge. I'm sure we've got a role to play, and I'm looking forward to investigating what that role is, to investigating the options on the table, and giving ourselves every opportunity to turn this into something, to see what might become of that site. And it does really feel like council is willing to look at every option available. To me, that's what I think anyway. So I support what Councillor Evans said.
Okay, thank you. Now to yourself, Councillor Harris, to withdraw it.
Yes, a bit of guidance as I go along here. I've actually got other words here, and I think you've got them there as well. That my first breath is to try and get them included or changed in the one that's up there, and I can explain it.
Just make sure we've got the right words up, Councillor. So, sorry, Secretary, you've just put something on the screen. Can you show both the original and the proposed together? Is that possible? Okay, can everyone see that? It would be nice to know what's changed if we can show. Whoops. I won't dock your time.
Is it possible?
Councillor.
Yeah. So will I read out the...
Let's just get clarity around what you're seeking.
Yes, that's what I meant. Well, I read it, the change, I suppose.
Is it possible to take all the dots and stuff out of it? I'm finding it hard to read.
Take it out of draft. I don't know why we have it in draft.
I hate that. Okay, so can you just scroll down a little bit, please? Okay. All right. Stop. Hands off. Okay. So, yes, you can read it out now, but everyone can read along with you.
Okay then. mine is naturally the one down there with the red in it. The Chief Executive Officer is authorised to commence the expression of interest process, redevelopment 82-204. Then in bracket, including consideration of the future use of the tram barn, in particular for community use or benefit, exploring various ownership or tenant options. That's changed a bit on the top, and the bottom one is basically just almost the last two lines. If you go down, because I think there's two things on options. Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't see the on options, but mainly the last line has changed, including the option council retaining the ownership of the tram site. Now, my question to you is, do I speak now on what I want done, or will I ask the meeting, or you ask the meeting to endorse, speak?
I'm happy to ask the mover and seconder to incorporate, but they might need a little bit more encouragement from you as to why you want to make those changes, and then I'll ask.
So then I'll give my 5 minutes now.
Yeah.
Okay. My 5 minutes comes, and I heard quite a few comments made from the both speakers about the sale of it, and a couple of the areas in particular I wanted to pick on is, one, it's heritage listed, state heritage listed, and we get the impression when that's said, and I don't call anyone here a liar with it, but the comment, oh well, it's heritage listed, it can't be touched and it won't be touched. I don't believe that. I don't believe that is the case. I believe it's the general case, but I know it can be changed as time goes on. I've seen it, it's happened, and people try to change. So to me, out of our hands doesn't give it the ultimate security it should have had. Very briefly on my own sort of thing is to get the CLIC project and the council, the whole thing up and running here on the site. Last week in particular, looking at those red lines we had of what we could sell to keep and those sort of things, not counting our parks and our ovals, it's nearly about 2/3 council's property, land, buildings to sell to put in one. I have a problem with that, but particularly the barn. I don't want anyone to measure it because I'm quite willing to say it might not exactly be 2/3 and got that on the chin. A speaker that spoke up here with a petition, sorry mate, you wait, but something changed, that spoke up about, and I think he was asked a question that what's it used like now, it's vehicles and trucks and that, and about all I can say to that is to turn around to that person, those petitions, and apologise. Because I've been part of the council for 18 or 19 years, did get excited when the side bits in the 80s was built on the side to put the vehicles in and to use it for a description. But the fact that myself and others haven't done anything over all this period of time is, it's a terrible thing, but such is life. We've done it. Let's move on and go further. I would like all this, and my whole setup here is to set it around about us having that real first choice of operating this and operating for the sake of the community. Developers will come in and make an offer, and if it fits in, and it's life of the party. You can't change it. Developers there, no doubt, to make a profit, and that's part of life, and it will fit into there. I believe by council continue to own the land or continue to work with a partnership. You know, the very first speaker spoke about partnerships that can work, and in there I've got still to continue that, looking at it. But if we got our finger on the pulse and at the current moment of owning it, we can assure what goes there is for the benefit of the community. Now, whether it's the first speaker spoke quite thing, he spoke to a young 20-year-old lady that didn't know where the tram barn is. I could most probably speak to another couple of hundred people wouldn't know where the tram barn is. But I could speak to another 200 that won't know where the council chamber is. There's people you're not going to change where they are. One of the greatest things, and the Mayor will know, is R.M. Williams, that I have all my clothes from R.M. Williams, my shirts, my shoes, my wallet, my boots and all those things, because I have a pride in it, not just because I live here and it's number 5 Percy Street, it's because I have, but it doesn't mean, in fact my kids tell me to get rid of the stuff, but you know, so it doesn't mean everyone has that same thing. 1 minute to finish, I'd like to see that in, and I specifically, when I tried to do them today and look at the various ideas, I didn't want to really not say in the end to sell. In my heart I do, in reality I do, but it's not the end result. I don't use urban taxis or Uber taxis or whatever they are. I don't watch the other thing. No, I don't agree with those things. So, but right now, I think the ultimate thing we should be looking for is a council-led owned property to the benefit of all our community or a sizable amount. So I'm hoping this is incorporated and I don't have to argue again to have another motion.
Thank you. I'll now, as the first speaker has requested on our seat to leave it, the movement seconded to incorporate those changes. I think they don't go to the core of it. I'm happy to accept it as an amendment, but whether you move a second are happy to accept it. If you are, I'll take the leave of the meeting to what that mover is. Seconder.
Can I ask a question?
Brief question.
So with the change in wording to the first part, can you just, so in the original one it says including its sales, and then in the revised one it doesn't say anything about including its sale at all.
So the purpose of the words is to use different words, understand, various ownership or tenure options, which opens up long-term leases, sale, partnerships, part sale.
So as long as it doesn't remove our intention to also consider that, but it rolls in the things that Councillor Harris has asked.
I can just ask the CEO whether she'd interpret those options as including sale, which is the important part of your question.
Yeah.
CEO, can you answer the question?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The intent is to still retain the option for council to be able to consider that. The intent of trying to address concerns around the wording was not to preclude sale, but to encapsulate other options as well. So it's very clear to the community and to the council that there's a range of options which you will be considering, and only one of them is the sale of the whole site, maybe sale of a portion of the site. And as the Mayor has indicated, it may include lease of the site or leasing of the building or a combination of a partnership through a joint venture. What we've tried to do is provide wording which is very open-ended.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Chair, I would just like to, and I know I don't have a chance to speak, but just answer that one word. Specific thing I do. I actually specifically went to a dictionary. Very seldom I do this. I simply went there to know that that word was still included. Definitely against it, but it's still.
That's a compelling argument put by Councillor Harris at any meeting.
How do I say no to that?
I don't think you could. Moment in history there. A good one. That being the case, mover and seconder are happy to incorporate, and that's the leave of the meeting to incorporate the changes into the motion. All those in favour of incorporating, all those against, it is thus incorporated and thus becomes the motion. Are there any further speakers to that motion then? It's Jazz, if you could perhaps just keep it in one place for us. I know you want to do all that stuff, but it drives us bananas. Okay? That'd be really good. So, stop. Right. Does anybody else wish to speak to that motion, which is now the motion? Councillor Groot, so Deputy Mayor Groot, and then Councillor Barnett.
That'll be fine. First of all, thank you to Councillor Harris for the amendment. I think it's a very sensible one and really reflects, I guess, the conversations we've been having as a council, both in workshops and in the council meetings ourselves, in terms of what we want. And I think I was just reflecting on some of the comments that Councillor Evans made, and it's about how do we make the best informed decision we can, and how do we make sure everything's on the table. And I think that's what this motion is now doing. I'm not convinced it was doing it before, but I'm convinced it's doing it now. We've been talking about this for some time now, both in terms of the library and also the tram bar. And I think ultimately, at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. I actually think we all want something that's useful for us as a council, something that engages community, Sorry?
I know about Uber taxis.
Well, we all want Uber. And something that engages the community and that is actually a useful asset for us all. And I don't think anyone would be arguing against that. I think that's just a common sense argument. And it seems to me that the argument will come down, or not the argument, but the discussion, the debate comes down to money. So we have a figure now of $1.5 million. That doesn't just appear. We don't just grow money in council. We have to levy our ratepayers to get that money. At the end of the day, that's where our money comes from. And also about the ownership. And I think that they're the two questions for me that we need to have absolute clarity on before I can make a decision. I'm not sure what I want in the tram park. I don't know if I want to see art in there, or whether I want to see a pub in there, or whether I want to see it being a farm barn. I don't know what I want to see. I really don't. And I won't know that yet until we've gone through this process. I think that's why this process is actually important. The other thing I want to point out was in the flight path report, in the executive summary, it talks about 3 options: do nothing with no public access, stabilise the place with no public access, or compatible adaptive reuse, public access. And it's their recommended option. And so we're saying we agree with that. We're saying we agree with the compatible adaptive reuse with public access. So I think at the end of the day, what we're arguing over, or what we're debating, what we're debating over is some semantics about how we get to that end point. And I think at the end of the day, we do all want the same thing. But until we have this piece of work done, before we actually understand the implications, and I think until we talk to the community and talk about what it is they want. And I talk to people who similarly don't know where the tram barn is, and similarly don't know where the council chambers are. And some people couldn't care less about the tram barn. That's reality. Some people are really passionate about it, and they care a lot about it. And that's what we've got in a very diverse community that we have at the moment. And we need to try and balance up that. So we need to balance that and our financial situation, what we want to do, and how we make sure we get a good use out of that facility. And at the end of the day, talking to the community might be the best way of doing that, and hear what the community have to say. But anyway, I think I again want to thank Councillor Harris for the amendment. I think it makes a lot of sense. I look forward to the report that comes out of this in terms of what it's going to say and how that might inform us as we go forward. Everything's on the table, and then we can make a decision based on the information we have, and we move forward from that.
Thank you. Councillor Barnett, and then Councillor Stanton.
Yes, before this amendment came up, which is now the motion, I was going to ask about deleting the wording, including its sale, because we've now had one council motion already passed that's got including its sale. This would have been another one. I'm just wondering, how many more times we're going to see that. And this is the advice from the Collier's report is that by demonstrating a willingness to include a range of development solutions, council will ensure that the site attracts the widest range of interest. So we do have to have, that's one of the options along with all the others. But I don't know, it just seems that we're putting so much emphasis about the sale, and I don't know, if you're a developer and you're reading council's reports, or if there's a report in the council's papers or wherever, and you see including its sale, and like ka-ching, ka-ching, developers, I just think that this puts an unnecessary emphasis every time we mention it, and could actually bias expressions of interest towards that way. And I mean, we could have had something like, why not put including the potential catalyst for a new development on Main North Road in support of the city's overall prosperity and stronger local economic gain. It's in our strategic plan. So they're the sort of words that I see. I don't see in our strategic plan about sale, sale, sale. I realise that we do, that by one vote we do have to go along now as council and go further with this and explore all the options. We've had some decent reports from the consultants on things. So I'm hopeful that we'll still be keeping a mind to be careful of our wording. We do need to be clear in the expression of interest process, but to make sure that it's not just a bias or a prejudice because of 3 words that we seem to be using, which the community is picking up on.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett. Councillor Stanton.
Yes, I think the most interesting part of this whole
proposal is the words expression of interest. For quite 90 odd, 100 years, someone's actually going to pay some interest in our tram bar. We might actually get something happening there. I mean, the best thing I think too is that we're going to open it up to a whole range of uses and people coming up and seeing what they can do with it. Without this process, I don't think we would be able to get the arts community to actually come and talk to us about what they want to do with it. I mean, I hope that Jack Collins' people rally together and come and turn it into something fantastic, like a creative hub, I think. But without this expression of interest process, we wouldn't be able to do that. It would just be something that would be landlocked in council's portfolio, and people would think that they wouldn't be able to come up and approach us about it. I don't think we should sell it. I think we could keep it and also, have people use it as well. But without this expression of interest, nothing's going to happen. And so it's just going to sit there and be used to park trucks and utes in. And that would be a crying shame if that happened for another 10 years. I would love to see a range of options be put on the table. I'm not particularly interested in more residential development. I think we've got enough of that. But maybe something that we could, something for the community. I've quite openly said that the pub would be fantastic. And that was just to open up conversation. I don't think anybody had thought of putting a pub there before. So that was, and I want to hear more of these wacky, crazy ideas. I want to hear the arts community come up and say, how about we do, I don't know, do something crazy and wacky with it. But at least there's interest. At least we're asking people to be interested in the tram barn, rather than let it sit there and do nothing.
Further speakers? Just briefly from the chair, I think Deputy Mayor put it fairly well when he said we're all interested in the same thing. Well, except we're not interested in totally the same thing. I think we've got to be clear here. I don't think any of us want to see the tram barn any worse off. Some of us might argue that's not terribly hard, and it's got an asphalt floor that's pretty bad, and it's got trucks and utes in it. I mean, how much worse off can it be? Well, it could get further out of condition. At least it's painted, the bits that are painted, at least the roof doesn't leak and those sort of things. But I think all of us want it to be something really exciting and fabulous. I think all of us want it to be accessed by the community. At the moment, you can't get in there. It's a locked site, it's a high-vis area, and none of the public can get inside the building unless there's a special invitation. Those of you who've been around here a while would know we've had a couple of Mayor's annual functions in there, and it's been really good. But the staff have had to go to extraordinary efforts to make it safe for us to be in the thing. It's just not built for function. There's been a market or two in there, and it works well for that. But it needs, if it's going to be used a lot by the public, it needs a lot of effort. So I think while we all agree we want it to be something really exciting, the second part about it is how does that get funded? And I think that's our dilemma. The motion we've passed to build the click here requires us to raise revenue or borrow money. We know our ratepayers want us to keep things on an even keel as best we can, and the decision we've made requires us to either get revenue from this site or to borrow more money. Now, borrowing more money will incur an interest charge, and that will impose on the rates. So it's simple mathematics is part two. Part three is there a pathway to get someone else's money in there to achieve part one, which is, can it be something fabulous that somebody else takes on the ownership and the risk and does the development that we want? And I think that's what this process is about. If we find something like that, I'd be wildly excited. If we can't find something like that, and we're just nervous about putting it out there as a straight-out sale, then we have the right to hold that part or the entire site and then talk to the community about what financial position that might be. And that, all those options are available to us, and I thank Councillor Harris for the amendment, and for Councillor De Backer's involvement in developing that as well. The bit that I want to flag that I am concerned about is that we end up holding an asset that we put in front of other priorities we've already got. And we promised people at Broadview that we would upgrade the Broadview Oval. We had a plan for $14 million. Then we said even we, wildest dreams couldn't work out how we'd fund that. It's been redesigned to get to 8. We still don't know how to fund it. We don't have a cent in our long-term financial plan for it. And in my view, that's been screaming out, people screaming out for that to be improved for a long time. And that, to me, is a much higher priority than council spending money on the tram barn for a community asset, which would be wonderful, but no one's actually been asking for until this topic came up. And then we've got the Mainmouth Road upgrade, and we have the Prospect Road power line undergrounding stage 4 to finish off. The last stage of undergrounding power lines is in our council. We now look like the laggards. We've got some master planning we've been doing down at Charles Hayne Reserve and the park links between Prospect Estate down to Prospect Kindy. All fantastic ideas. Somehow we've got to work out how do we fund all this stuff. So Councillor Barnett has foreshadowed a motion which will ask exactly that question. I think it's a really important question for us to deliberate over. And I really do hope, and I'm very happy to work with the CEO in sounding out parties that will put something to us that will really get us interested. And if they're not interested, then I won't be interested. So that's, I think, I reflect the sentiment of most, if not all, people in the room. I think anyone here is going to be happy to sell the tram barn, turn into a car wash. I think that's going to happen. But I agree with the mover. We won't know unless we ask industry to tell us what they might do with it. And we did have at least one conversation today about a party that wants to talk about having a mix of apartments, market and affordable apartments for key workers, police and nurses and teachers that are young with a rent-to-buy option. So rent for 3 years and buy up the third year. It's their financial model, but they thought that site would be great, and they thought that tram barn would be an integral part of how that community would work. We're very keen on forming a community, not a bunch of boxes with numbers on the door. So that's just one party you popped in today, just per chance. So we'll get those, if this gets up, we'll make sure we get plenty of interest and tell them that unless they give us something interesting, it's probably not going to get anywhere. It's enough from me. Any further debate? Back to you, Councillor Evans, if you wish to sum up.
Just a couple of quick points there, and indeed, to pick up on what Deputy Mayor Grigg was saying, we want the same thing. I think we do want the same outcomes. The debate tonight's been all about what we can do, that we want to see more done with the site and that there's huge potential there. So I'm not hearing great applause for the status quo. I'm not hearing great applause to see the tram barn just sold to the highest bidder either. This is a delicate site. It's a site that commands our attention, and it's one that will get it as we embark on this process if the motion's successful. I just wanted to raise one other point, and that is we've got $200,000 in our budget to spend on Mainmouth Road to 30 June. And that's a really interesting and important point, because this site forms part not only of what's happening at Johns Road, but it's also part of the Mainmouth Road Master Plan. And seeing it in that context, seeing what opportunities exist for the tram barn as part of a broader conversation around what we're doing for Mainmouth Road is quite exciting as well. Collaboration, creative hubs, working together, working with other parties, all really great things and all things that are definitely worth exploring. Just to emphasise one point that maybe I didn't make quite right at the beginning, and that is this concept of access rather than ownership. And I know it's one that has different views around the table and there are different views in our community. But when we think about what young people value and how young people are engaging with us, it is all about access rather than ownership. This is a different generation, and we see it time and time again where young people are genuinely disengaged with the affairs of council. They don't read our papers, they don't come to our meetings, they don't engage with our processes. And if we try and make them, it's not the format they want to interact with us through or by. They want access, they don't want ownership. And I think if we do things with the view to young people, we need to rethink how we're modelling the services that we provide. And I think opportunities for the tram barn in that regard are a great example of that. So this isn't so much a sale versus non-sale question for me. It's about what can happen with the site. It's about how our community can have access to it and what that looks like. Who ends up owning it, I don't know, and I'm looking forward to going through the process of all options on the table to find out.
Thank you. That concludes the debate. All those in favour of the motion? Thank you. That's carried. That was unanimous over that sneeze, just to make sure. Hold off on not recording things to be unanimous. I just want to make it clear. Over the sneeze, CEO.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We haven't got much of the meeting to go, but if you in the gallery were here for items around the community hub or the tram barn, there's only the foreshadowed motion from Councillor Barnett left on that item. If you wish to stay for that, you're more than welcome. But if you wish to move on home, that would be understandable too. So up to you. Thank you so much for your interest. Coming on to the next item, 16.1, the removal of footpath trading fees and footpath trading policy review. Councillor Backer, just a brief reason why it's through it.
Yes, noting that Adelaide City Council don't have footpath trading fees, I'd like to remove it. and amend the motion.
We're looking to amend.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Do I have somebody who wishes to move it in its current form? Deputy Mayor talked about it workshop, so do you wish to speak to it?
Yes, because I'm well prepared to speak to this one. Look, I would like to speak to it because I think that this is one that we've been looking at for some time, and we go back and forth about do we charge or do we don't, or do we not charge. I was quite comfortable with where we landed with this in terms of having some charge. I think it puts some skin in the game for traders, that they're kind of part of that activation. I think it's important that we do activate the footpaths, and I think that the cost that we're proposing is not, it's not a particularly material cost. I don't think it's an onerous cost. And I think the way it's been structured by the director means that over a 4-year period it's only $25 a year, which is quite a small cost really in terms of running a business. I'm supportive of it, but I'm certainly happy to hear any amendments and see whether that would improve the motion and certainly improve our capacity to activate our local footpaths.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Evans, wish to speak to it?
Just very briefly to say that I think this is a policy that's also helping to streamline the process and make it a little bit less bureaucratic, so cutting red tape is always a good thing, and I'd encourage us to challenge ourselves wherever we can to review our policies with a view to making life easier for traders.
Thank you. Councillor Back.
Yeah, look, I'm just cognizant of the feedback that the director gave us at the last meeting, in which they said that they do have a resistance to, I know we're reducing bureaucracy, but it's still bureaucracy, and knowing that Adelaide City Council don't have the fees, and this is across the whole of City of Prospect, not just Village Heart. So I think, as an opportunity to promote business and activation, and when we're looking for that magic thing of activation, I just think this is low-hanging fruit as a way to do it. And I think it's also an opportunity to showcase some case studies of people that are doing it and it's working for them. So it may be, I'd be happy with flipping it so that it's, it's the first 2 years are free. We've got a cinema coming into town. We've also got some other spots on North East Road that, might welcome that activation. And I'd like to actually stimulate that now and get in there while it is free and just remove as much bureaucracy as possible. So I'd like to move that the tables and chairs, the $100 flat fee for the first 2 years is waived, and that's a $100 flat fee for the following 2 years.
Sorry, can you just get that up on the screen?
Yeah, sure. It's actually in the schedule. I don't think we've got much to lose and a lot to gain.
Try before you buy.
Yeah.
Okay, so Councillor, is that as you wish?
So the council introduced a 4-year footpath trading term. The first 2 years is waived, following the 2 years of flat fee of $100. Yeah, so it's kind of a try before you buy kind of thing. I think it would stimulate activity and the vibrancy that we all desire.
Thank you. Wish to speak in further to the amendment? You don't have to, though.
Oh, look, I encourage other councillors to give it a go. I mean, it really is about just reducing that bureaucracy as a barrier to activation and keep up with Adelaide. I don't want to be left behind.
Thank you. As per earlier in the meeting, I'll just ask the moving seconder if you're happy to incorporate. I'm happy to take it as an amendment. That's how it's been put in. So, moving in.
I won't be supporting it, but I'm happy to let it go through to the vote. Can I do that?
Yes. Can you just answer my question, yes or no? Yes. So you have to incorporate in the motion.
Yes, I'm happy.
I'm a simple man. Yeah, it's a yes. And second, Councillor Evans.
Sure. Yep.
It's a yes. Okay, I now seek leave of the meeting to incorporate it into the motion. All those in favour? Sorry, hang on. All those in favour? 3. All those against? 1, 2. Well, someone's hands have got sticky on them or what? It's not a complex motion. We've just dealt with some really complex matters. This is not one of them, okay? I need 2/3 majority to incorporate it. If you don't want to incorporate, that's fine, but that's all I've got to work to. So,
You need
all
to
those
see
in
it.
favour of incorporating it into the motion? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
6.
Those against incorporating the motion? Stuff's incorporated. Thank you for your cooperation. Just not even voting on the resolution, on the motion. All right, so that now becomes the motion. Any further debate on the side? Councillor Harris.
Just a question first, not so much what you put up. The $100, even the previous motion and this one, was that per chair or the whole lot? Like per shop?
Is that the question, Director? You stand up.
Thank you. Mayor, through the chair, that was a flat fee for however many chairs that you had, the whole shop. And we might want to also clarify that. Is the flat fee $100 for 2 years or $100 for 1 year, which make $200?
Well, in 2 years being,
Yeah, that
should be being.
Sorry, thank you, Director. You wanted to flip it around, didn't you? So, flat fee of $100 for the first 2 years. So presumably, if you're just flipping around, Councillor, so the following 2 years is a flat fee of $100 for 2 years. Is that?
the way it reads here is proposed $100 flat fee per year. So imagine that's $200. Yeah. So if you put the per year in there, I think you're covered.
$100. No, so at the end, see ya.
Yeah.
Following. It's a flat fee of $100 per year.
See the seconder and the thingo.
Or we leave it as it is if that's what's incorporated.
$100 per year. Just add per year at the end. Here we go.
Well, he's saying they're saying, excuse me, Mayor, they're saying that we've already incorporated it. So
that is true.
that is true.
Director's asking clarification. So I'll seek leave of the meeting to clarify your amendment, which you thought deeply about, Councillor, written down before you got here. All those in favour of incorporating that change to clarify? Those against? Those against? It's incorporated. Thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Director. To make the Director's life easy, otherwise it gets really hard.
Talk about red tape.
Okay, I'm going to support it as an individual, and it's almost following the Deputy Mayor. I think people that we give the tables and the business to should be paying every year, but that's not up in front of me, so I've got to support this one. I actually support it because I look over the other side of Main North Road, this way, and if you go over to Collingswood and that, and our local fish and chip shop there, but the next place that's alongside it, Sammy's Chippery or something like that it's called, they've just set up an area there with tables and chairs and all that sort of stuff to see how it goes, fish and chip shops. So it's a small part of the city, but maybe throwing that on them to the start might not have been that good, whereas it might be better at the end of it, you know, the second 2 year, when they might say, oh, well, we're doing all right, or they might say no and then stop it. So I support that as it is now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barnett.
Yes, I support that. We had quite a wide-ranging discussion at workshop, and so this really doesn't really tell about all the other things that are in there, and what about the reduction of bureaucratic red tape and how we're trying to actually encourage this. So I think thinking now that we were also told that when the businesses want to set up and do this, they've got a lot of insurance costs, they've got the setup costs and all that. So I think maybe this might be more encouraging for it to happen. I support it.
Okay, thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Logan.
It's not clear to me whether this is saying for a business which hasn't done this before and intends to do it, or whether it's for all businesses. Someone clarify.
Councillor, Director, sorry.
Through the Mayor, it's for as soon as somebody's licence expires, this new policy will come into place, and all businesses that are seeking to have that will trading table, chairs and tables, they will have to, this fee will then apply to them. So essentially, under that regime, it will be $200 for 4 years. But we'll wait the first 2 years.
Thank you. Councillor, anything further? Any further debate? That concludes the debate. Back to you, Councillor Green, if you wish to sum up.
Look, very briefly, rather, just to say that look, hopefully the effect of the amendment will be that people do pick up and I guess engage with this issue of activation. I think Councillor Harris makes a very good point that it's not just Prospect Road we're talking about, so I think Councillor Harris made that point, but also businesses across the city to take advantage of this. Look, my preference would have certainly been for the fees to be in the first 2 years. I just think it provides a bit more onus and responsibility onto the business. But I'll be supporting the motion because I think at the end of the day, if you look at it in the long term, it achieves the same aims in terms of so I'd be very interested for the Director to report back to us the uptake, particularly over the next 6 months as new businesses start and existing businesses look at doing things a bit differently, and we'll welcome a report back to Council at some point.
Thank you. That concludes the debate. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. That's actually only. Okay. Next item on the agenda is done. No one wanted to talk about the response to the Ombudsman. Council diary. The 8 nights of summer on the 31st of March. We'll have the ICF representative here, so if you want to come along and be able to meet Mr. Young, and Chris will be hosting during the day, and the CEO and I will be inviting other councils to come along and catch up with him, but you'll be able to catch him if you're working. Come along after work there, or come to the round table during the day. If you're free during the day, I think we can squeeze some councils in. Yeah, so come and all been invited. Great. Not on your agenda, I wish to advise you, is the first game for the Mighty Roosters this season is on Friday the 14th of April. That's Good Friday. Unfortunately, I am unable to make it. So they're playing Central Districts. Always a good game.
You can't have sausage rolls because it's meat.
Exactly. So,
sausage rolls aren't meat.
That one hand me at the bit. That's what I was thinking. So can you please see us afterwards if someone is able to go on Good Friday? I think Councillor Lee, maybe Councillor Barnett can. Thank you. That would be great. And be able to host our guests. And now on to items of general business, and of course a foreshadowed one, which is now up on the screen. Councillor Barnett, you have the floor.
Yes, okay. I think from what I've said previously, it's just that these were items that were actually raised in the report by the our officer. So I just thought it was very important that we actually don't let the opportunity slip, and I'm not sure if a report would most probably come. I don't know if it goes to the audit committee first and all that sort of thing, but I just thought it was important. They're important matters. We need to be able to have information on these. I mean, that was the initial financial modelling that informed Council's decision on the site and the scale for the CLIC was undertaken by figures provided by the SGS Economics, and so that now actually revealed that certain things that informed us. But I think there's a major change that the modelling actually should perhaps be looked at to include these things and just see how it affects operating surplus and our loans and council's net debt position. So that's the reason why I'm bringing up, just to make sure that we do actually get a report and not let some of these matters, just go by.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I just ask for clarification, Part C? Is your intention there to see whether there's some savings from this project as compared to the budget allocation? Is that your intent?
Yes, that was a point that was made in the report that was brought to us, that depending, once we, I think, get into where the design stage starts happening, then, you know, we've already talked about, there might be other things done out the reception area now. It's not just upgrading. It could be, you know, complete rebuild, blah, blah, blah. So I think that was the point there.
Thank you. CEO, I think some other words might be helpful.
Well, whatever assists.
Just to follow on from the word building, to ascertain if there are any savings compared to the current budget allocation. That's the intent, isn't it? To see we've saved some of this building. Does that mean we've saved the?
Well, I was just quoting from the report, so I can't get into the minds of the officers preparing the report.
Sorry, Director. Yes, Part C. Please do. Because it's your report, I understand it's been quoted from. Is that correct?
That's right. So through the chair, Part C, it won't affect our funding, it won't affect our borrowing, it will affect our ratio in terms of asset sustainability.
Yes.
So that is the only thing that it will affect. So it won't find any savings from anywhere else. So in terms of Part A and Part B, they are the concerns. Yes, we have addressed the resolution of council to say what is the implication of the income and how much will it deteriorate by. So it's between 1.3 to 1.5. In terms of how do we raise the question as to what would elected want to do with tram ban. So for us to make a modeling, we need to be able to have a scope. What will it be done? We need to have a figure for us to be able to model that.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Councillor, it's your motion. Is that what you're expecting Part C to be giving you, the asset sustainability ratio?
Yes, and I deliberately left it reasonably loose that a report's prepared for council consideration, so I didn't put any time frame on it, so that, you know, there'll be time for our finance department to be able to sort of gather that information and work through. We'll have to wait until we get back the expressions of interest, which I think are due in after March, in April, I think, isn't it, the time frame? Yeah, I know it was sort of not in time for, yeah.
Thank you.
Can I just ask you? Can I ask you?
Do you have a seconder?
Seconder, sure. I've just got a question though.
Sorry, brief question. Yes. Councillor, you need to stand up, sorry.
So renewal and upgrade, just in an accounting term, is that sort of asset reparation versus capital works? Is that what we're talking about? This operating account versus capital account?
Through the chair, yeah, that is actually an asset sustainability ratio that we take into account. If the whole project is a renewal project, that will then we can use that to compare how much is depreciation, whether we have 100% asset sustainability.
And how would you treat renewal differently to upgrade?
Upgrade will be treated as a new project. Okay. So that will amend the sustainability ratio.
Sure.
Does that answer your question, Councillor? Do I have a seconder? Do you have a brief question?
I have a question. I'm not sure who to ask it to because it really needs to be Councillor Barnett, but Section A, any budget allocation required to upgrade and convert the tram barn for use other than the storage function it currently provides. I don't feel comfortable voting on something like that because that's such a broad concept that I can't fathom how the staff can pinpoint it to any particular thing because it's just a use.
Debating against the motion, but you did say you wanted to ask a question.
It is, can someone explain what that means because I don't get it.
Okay, thank you. I'll put that back to the mover. I think you have 1 minute left to say, Councillor Barnett, too.
Right, well, perhaps I'll let the Director of Finance, because that's from the report from where it came, and I'm just quoting back what's in their report. So I just want these answers.
Sorry, Councillor, I'll ask the Director to answer or to explain what she thought, what she was writing about in her report. Unfortunately, this is your motion, and you don't have a seconder at this stage. So I urge you, upon hearing the answer of the Director's explanation of why the Director's used those words in the report about another matter, you've probably got 40 seconds left to convince someone to second. So I'll just leave that thought with you, Director.
Oh, all right. Okay. People don't want answers.
Because of long-term financial plan, we have to have some assumptions. So the assumption is a reduction of an income of 1.3 to 1.5%. That's how we frame the budget. So on the other hand, if we were to retain the tram barn, obviously we need to have some sort of investment, maybe not, about what we're going to use that for. I guess the assumption is at the moment we haven't allocated anything because we are not quite sure what is the scope. If we were to prepare a modelling as such, we can use a tentative amount of $500,000, $1 million, 200,000, 100,000, whatever it is. 2 million. We can actually frame it how it is, but for actual what is going to be used, we will just be guided by it.
It's an accounting function.
So I take the explanation as being if you wanted to do something, there would be a cost, but council hasn't directed what that use would be. So so that's why it's not defined any further than saying there would be a cost. So Councillor Barnett, back to you.
All I'm wanting is some answers that have been raised by our finance officers, and if other councillors are interested in financial implications and financial reporting, well then that's their issue. But I am.
Okay, thank you. There it is. There's the call to action. Councillor Harris, seconding it?
Yes.
Thank goodness. Curious to speak to it?
So it gets up there. The answer is yes. On very briefly reading the report, because I have to apologise, I spent a lot of time on the last motion, and that's why I didn't even know I didn't have an answer. But particularly the first one that talks about the long-term thing of the tram barn, but looking at Prospect Road in particular, not Prospect Road, Main North Road area, so there's 3 blocks consigned there, and also here I saw briefly written one line somewhere that the value of something might be 1.5, and I'll just say the tram barn 1.5, and then down about 4 lines after, and it is on other ones as well, that it would be the council's responsibility to make sure the site was all clean of chemicals, etc., and all those sort. So when we're looking at a figure of 1.5 or any other figure for the corner bit here, the actual depot, and the depot almost fits like a petrol station. The milk depot would most probably be the same. We might get 1.5 and find arsenic underneath and have to spend $1 million to get rid of them or something. So these sort of things give me a question that we were told, and I use that term loosely, not committing people, that we'll get 1.5 for the tram barn. But over there is we've got to clear out what's underground, if there is anything. So it could be quite a bit. You know, the Royal Adelaide Hospital, the new branch, the example was there that I think it was Hanson Yuncken paid X million dollars, and suddenly they found the arsenic and stuff to another side. So that would make me feel a bit better to know not just what we sell something, what we get from it with the side monies.
Okay, thank you. So we have a second there. Any further debate? Councillor Good and then Councillor Lowe.
Yes, look, I think that particularly the question 1A is going to be very hard to answer, but I think whatever answer we get, we're going to need to take the grain of salt, because if the use changes, that costing will be, well, quite useless to us, quite frankly. But I was actually going to propose an amendment. The groans now.
Oh, I'm wildly excited.
Excellent.
Deputy Mayor.
So 1A, at the end, after the word provides, I'd like to include the following. Right.
Little lines again.
Okay, at the end of A?
At the end of A, including costs associated with the revenue foregone by not selling the tram barn and recurrent operating costs. Now, in doing that,
sorry, just curb your enthusiasm just a second. Let's just get this up.
Stopwatch just stopped.
Yep, stopwatch.
Oh, sorry, where are we up to? Including costs of the revenue foregone by not selling the tram barn and recurrent operating costs.
Should we be operating? What you mean?
Yeah, correct.
Well, it's your amendment.
Should be operated by council.
Should it be operated by council? Should it?
So I've just made a hard question, probably even harder to answer. My point is the issue about renovating the site is only one part of the financial story. There's another part of that financial story, which is we have to find another 1.5 million. Then if we operate it and we keep it, we haven't budgeted for the operating costs. And so I just think in order for it to be a holistic answer about, well, what is the actual cost of doing this and what's the impact on the long-term financial plan, we also need to include those two aspects. So I think that's actually really important. And so I think it's a really difficult question to answer because do you make, is it a single story tram barn, do we go above it, how do we modify it, how do we fit it out, for what use, DDA compliance, all those issues that we have to deal with. The brain is better than mine to work out how you actually cost that. But I think it is an interesting question. I would just comment on Councillor Barnett's view that not all elected members are interested in financial matters. Well, I think everyone has to be interested in financial matters. I don't think it's an issue of right. I think everyone is. And I just think we need to make sure we're asking the right questions to get the right answers to make the right decisions. Until we actually know what the tram barn is going to look like or what it's going to do, I wouldn't rely on anything that I get before that point. Once I know what the tram barn is going to do and what the cost of remediation is going to be, what the cost of build is going to be and what the cost of operating is going to be, that's the point where I think this would be a better question to ask. But as a preliminary step, if the Chamber is willing, then we'll get the report. But I think it's too early to ask it, but I think it's a really important question that has to be asked, I think, just a little bit down the track. But if we are going to go ahead, I'd like to
Thank you. And as per what I've done earlier tonight, I'll ask the mover and seconder if they're happy to incorporate. Mover?
Yes, because...
sorry. I'll try and button this down. It's just a simple yes or a no. So yes, that's good. Councillor seconder? Yes. Much obliged. Now seek leave of the meeting to incorporate the change into the motion. All those approving that, it's unanimous. It's now incorporated to come to the motion. Thank you. I think your 5 minutes is almost up, Deputy Mayor, but you might have about 30 seconds left if you need to.
Happy to.
Thank you. Councillor Larwood was the next registered speaker.
First of all, I'd like to reiterate the suggestion that not all elected members are interested in financial matters. I might speak on behalf of the rest. Well,
I did not say that.
I'm pretty sure you did.
I didn't say that. I said if.
From the chair, I goaded the councillor into urging you to second it, and I think it worked pretty well. So take it as that, and that's all. A bit of puffery.
It's the word if.
Okay. So yeah, part A, this will be resolved at the end of the EOI process anyway. I'm not really sure why we're getting into this right now. I think that asking our council staff to spend time on something which is...
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Be quiet in the gallery. Starting up here.
Our theory.
Asking the staff to spend time on this when we know we're going to redo it down the track seems like a bit of a moot point to me. Second...
Councillor Larwood has the floor.
Yes, I know. I'm just speaking to myself saying there's actually no date on that.
Could you, when you speak to myself, could you just do it internally?
Yes, I'm speaking to myself.
Councillor Larwood. Yeah, it did. Yeah. The previous practice tonight.
I've also got a question. So we're asking for this to be included in the long-term financial modelling, yet we've got a number of other large-scale projects that we've spent years and years working up. Are they also considered and addressed in the long-term financial modelling? I believe the answer to that is currently no. So I'm not sure why. Like I support this being reviewed from that perspective, don't get me wrong, but I'm also curious as to why we're not asking for those other projects that a lot of the community has actually been asking for many years, aren't also included, and we're not assessing those against the impact of the long-term financial modelling. I'm also really concerned about point B. information on a deferral of the projects that were never going to be taken. Again, we've spent years talking about a range of projects, and we've got a whole lot of things that we are really proud of that we do at our council, that we hang our hat on, that cost money. And I'm concerned that this is going in the direction of let's stop all those other things and let's not do all these things and let's just do this. So I'm just flagging a concern for what might happen when we start moving into the budgeting process in the next few months. And I think I've run out of things to say.
You don't need to tell me that bit.
Outside my head. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further speakers? Councillor Stanley.
I'll support this because I think I'll support Christina's need to go down this journey. If a councillor wants to investigate this, I think we should support them. I do have a couple of questions. I would love somewhere in there to see, and I don't think it needs to be an amendment at all, somewhere in there whether we can incorporate possible future savings through other that may be happening in the next 6 months through infrastructural contracts or whatever that could possibly be rolled into helping fund all this. The other thing too is it's been a little bit said here about remediation of the site, and just a question to whichever director is relevant. When do we actually talk about possible costs of remediation of the site? I mean, if we're going to have to spend, we're looking to get $1.5 million back from the site, but if it costs us that much to remediate it at the end of our tenure, is there any point in actually selling it or doing anything with it? I mean, these are all hypotheticals.
So you wanted to answer that question, but that's okay. Carry on.
Well, when do we talk about the remediation of the site? When does that come up and costs associated with that?
We have discussed it, and I presume if councils want full public access, they want to remediate it if we kept it. So it's not something we can escape. Which director has a handle on the scope and potential cost? There's been some reporting done.
I don't need an answer right now. I mean,
Director.
For absolute clarity through the chair, we could take it on notice and get back to you because there was an investigation done into the site in about 2011, and it did reveal some minor need for remediation if the site was to move to a more sensitive use, childcare centre, residential, things like that. The value was in the hundreds of thousands, not the millions. And I guess just going on from the Mayor's point, that would be the responsibility of council if council was to retain ownership of that portion or the whole portion. So can sell a site that needs remediation, that onus then transfers with the land.
Okay, so a memo will come out on those. Thank you. Councillor, back to you.
So that has impact on the $1.5 million that we're actually, so it does have relevance in this process. But I'll be supporting. I want to see Christina follow its journey.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Any further debate? Councillor Evans.
Just want to, and I guess being on the receiving end of compiling some of this stuff at work, it's really hard to do. And I don't know how the guys are going to do it. I know that has some views, but there's that many moving parts to what's happening at the moment. To get something that's actually going to make sense and is going to mean something, I'm just trying to think about how it could be tackled in a way that deals with the tram barn in isolation, because we've got a CLIC project, we've got a whole capital works project, we've got an annual budget review process that we do. There's a lot of different moving parts to it all, and once an analysis is done, it's done based on a whole range of assumptions. Any one of them could be out of date by the time the analysis is prepared when it comes to council. So it's going to be really hard to get true value out of that, I think. Really great initiatives and all things we should be exploring. The big risk in terms of what we're modelling, and I guess from a financial perspective, is the $12 million CLIC project that we've got and how this is a component of that $12 million CLIC project. So there's a lot of different moving parts, and I guess to support the intention of what we're looking to do and what the intention of what Councillor Barnett's motion is. But in practical terms, I'm not sure this is going to serve as a useful repository of information for us in coming to a decision, because there's that many variables at this stage. It's quite hard to pull together in a way that's going to make sense. So,
Councillor Lee.
I think Councillor Evans has summed up my difficulty with Section A when I sort of meant to ask the question but didn't. Is that it's one giant hypothetical, and I think Councillor Larwood's correct in that this is the stuff that we asked after the expression of interest process. And I agree with Councillor Evans. I've got no idea how you guys are going to go about doing this. It's such pie in the sky sort of stuff until we had something a little more definite. I think it's a great initiative. I think it's important, but I think it's a step before we need to do other things. So if this came to us at the end of the expression of interest process, I would support it, but currently I don't think it's too much of a hypothetical, and it's too much of a loose cannon for staff to pinpoint anything direct. So currently tonight, I don't think I can support it. Bring it back after a process is gone. We've gone through a process, and I could definitely support it then.
Thank you. Further debate? Councillor Baker.
I think I just wanted to support the motion, but I think it was more the fact that the points that Councillor Barnett has raised were referred to in another report. You know, so I guess obviously we're looking for that information. So I think just to reiterate, it was stated in an expert report. This was information to be looked at.
Thank you. I'm not sure where the vote's at. I want to know what I think in case I have to have a casting vote, given that everybody's here tonight. I think it is premature. I understand the sentiment. I think I'd be much happy to have this discussion after the expression of interest process. We might have a proposal before us which says we're happy to take that bit, but we're only going to lease that bit off of you, but you've got to fix it up and decontaminate it and whatever else. I think at that point we can do that modelling. Another expression of interest might have a different permutation. We can do that modelling on what that requires. Or we might just not like any of the versions of what people come to us with. We might seek to retain it. We need to have a discussion about what we retain it for. We keep it as a shed, tickety-boo. Not much. If we want to turn it into an arts hub, total refurbishment in order to secure it and air condition it and all sorts of stuff. And the difference between one and the other is just huge. And I'm very cognizant of not wanting to have staff come to me saying, how do we interpret this, to engage architects to draw things, to engage cost planners to cost things, but what do we draw and what do we cost? I think it is premature. If the mover had a specific use, then perhaps. But I understand the frustration the mover has, and that these are words in another report. But I have to concur with other people's comments and the director's feedback. They were merely raising issues that would need to be resolved in the event that the site was retained. So simply asking questions that need resolution doesn't of itself give rise to a need for another report. The resolutions would give rise to a further report, or the ideas of those resolutions. And that's why I think it's a bit premature. But I agree with Councillor Lee that should we decide to go in a pathway of retention in whatever form, we would need to know the financial implication of what that is. And I commend Deputy Mayor Group for adding those items, because it's not just the loss of sales revenue, it's the extra interest on the extra loan we're likely to have to take out, and the cost of the upgrade, and the recurrent costs if we want to put some staff in it, which we're seeking, of course, to consolidate on the one site. And so there's a lot of implications, but that all depends on what we do with it. And we haven't really, we've had two petitioners come to us, but other than that, we haven't applied ourselves as to what we would do with it, and therefore what the good form implications are. So I do think it's premature, but I agree with the principle of it. And at some stage, should we want to retain, we'll need to do exactly this. So that's my view. Any further debate? I think everybody's spoken. I think it's my records. Back to you, Councillor Barnett.
There is no time frame on this. So it could come back whenever it's appropriate to come back. But I just want it there that we know that these points have been raised, because this is now out of context after I took the advice to raise it not at agenda item 15.3 where it would most probably make more sense, but I've been advised now to bring up here. So you have to keep it in the context of where it came from, agenda item number 15.3, and it's response to motion, the financial implications of retaining the Trambarn site and council ownership. There is no time frame on that. The time frame can be when it's appropriate for those questions to be able to come back to us after we have got all the other information. So I don't see what a problem is. This is not, I'm not asking for it to be done next week, next council meeting. There's no time frame on it. That's the whole purpose. And it's raising questions that are actually raised by council's financial officers, which I just want to pick up on and see that there's somewhere along the line, whether it's 6 months down the track, who knows. So that's all I'm asking for.
Okay, thank you. Concludes the debate. All those in favour? All those against? It's tied. I'm going to cast my vote in favour because I was convinced by the excellent summing up. So it's carried. Not unanimously.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you get that word.
Don't get that word. Thank you. Do I have any other items of general business?
If you read the line that you asked us, I'm not going to ask for a report, but it says if you want to raise matter of a minor nature for the staff to look into.
Yes.
Okay. So in the end, I would like to discuss it in a more confined space, i.e. the workshop. But I still get around quite a bit. People haven't had get reply, and I'm not talking about us, I'm talking about the residents, get replies back from council from email. We go to the meeting on the corner up there with councillor group. We go other places, and even I think it was made a couple of comments tonight. There's people, and whether it's true or not, that's why I'm asking a minor nature for basically Kate to look at with the staff. Are we, and even to get back to people and say, thank you, we'll look into it, or thank you, we'll get back to you later, or it means nothing, or something. I'm still getting quite a few people today, and including the man on the corner of that 71 3rd Avenue, got one reply but not another reply. So I just like, as a minor nature, but even though it's important, can through the CEO have a look at just, are we on top of it, all areas of replying to people that send us not just emails, telephone comments.
And the timing, Anna, so we'll leave that with you, CEO, to memo in response. Thank you. Any further items of general business? Any items of an urgent nature? There's nil confidential items. Meeting closed.